Hello, thanks for joining me today. Today we're going to be doing some book talk. Ignore my messy room. Sincerely sorry if you see, just exposed my room and you can't even see the cat. If you see a cat jumping around back there, who doesn't love cats? My mic is being a bit of a brat today, so if you see her doing what she's doing, um, ignore it. It's fine. You'd rather have good audio, right? Not even that my audio is great, but it's fine. So today, we are going to be doing something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while, which I feel like I'm a little late to the bus. Like maybe 6 years too late. I should have been born in 2014, and I think you know what I'm getting at. Dystopian novels from 2014. I should have been a 2014 girly. I don't know why that's the number that sticks in my head, but I feel like that was the time for the Hunger Games and Divergent. And surprisingly enough, like I'm not super into those books, but some of them, they get me. And some of my favorites are like Legend and all that, but today we're gonna be talking about a different one. Dun, 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 dun. The Fever King. The Fever King. This isn't a super well-known one. Like it has a pretty good Goodreads, but it's definitely not on the level of other classic, like dystopians. I believe it came out in 2019. I'm like the first person to check it out in 20 million years, so I thought I'd give it a fair shot. Let's just start with what the book's about. So basically, in this novel written by Victoria Lee, we've got this world where there's a virus, and that virus is magic. So it's actually pretty interesting that magic is the thing that's kind of killing them in this book. This is not going to be spoiler free if you haven't read this book. Actually, okay, this part, no, this is like a book review. This is not spoiler free. I'm not going to worry about that. So the magic is killing them, and it's going around and sweeping deadly viruses. But going along with that, we have a ton of politics in this book, and our main land is called Carolina, and oh my god, the cats. Our mainland's called Carolina, and then we have Atlantia people too. Oh, something with that. And they are basically immigrants into the area, into our main homeland that we're going to be focused on. So there's a ton of immigrants, and those are the places that are getting infected with this super deadly virus. Like, I believe the statistics are 4 out of 400 are going to be living. But the cute thing is that when you live, I'm trying to pick up my cat, when you live, you get magical powers. Kind of. It's called magic, but a really awesome thing about this book is that you can't access the magic unless you understand the physics or like the biology or just the theories that make that happen. So, not spoiler free, one of our main characters is the main character, Gnome, is a electrician. No, that's wrong. A technopath. I thought it was saying telepathic person for like 20 years. It's kind of confusing. But he can like hack at computers and stuff. But to do that, he has to understand binary code, electricity, etc. And that's his presenting power or whatnot. So it's basically kind of the world. Really interesting world. I absolutely love it. My cat's gonna try to bang on my door and get out in a second. I really like the world building. That's kind of, I don't want to do like this full synopsis because I mean this book is really long and I will dive into every little detail. But no, let's finish the synopsis. Okay, so basically we've got this world, right, and the magical powers. This kid, he survives the virus, his dad dies, and he wakes up and he's in the super high, he wakes up in a hospital, he gets sent to some super high government complex level 6. We never hear about the other levels, so if you're wondering, wow, is there anything beyond level 6? I don't know. We don't touch that. Don't get me wrong, like I'm probably gonna hate on this book, but I did enjoy it. So basically, he's in this world, and this main guy that's 120 years old that has fought for the people with the magic powers and stuff. He's fought for them. He comes and sees this kid. He's like, I'm gonna teach you everything you need to know about magic. Yada yada yada. A bunch of nothing happens. The kid does a bunch of magic stuff. And basically there's like this much this main chart, where I don't really, like, you get lost in the sauce. Like, I don't, like, things are good, like, they're fun and they're interesting, and it's all about magic or whatever, but not much is going on. The kid, our main kid, Gnome, is trying to fight for, like, the refugee rights. That's his whole motive throughout the whole book. And he's trusting this one old 120-year-old guy that fought for the witchings, that's what they're called, who have the magical powers, their rights, when he was, like, tortured when he was a little kid. This is the most confusing synopsis ever. I'm so sorry. This book is really complicated. Just read it. But if you've already read the book, you can just skip past this part. My confusing synopsis for you. But if it's fun to watch me stroll through a synopsis, then have a good time. I don't even know where it's at. There's another kid that's been raised with the old war hero guy. His name's Calix Lair. I believe the author pronounces it differently. I can never remember how she pronounces it. I say Calix. It looks like Calix. Calix. That's how I'm gonna say it. There's like a ton of other stuff, but I'm not gonna get into that. He's got this kid that he kind of adopted when he was 5. From where? How? We don't know. That is not told to us. I was about to give away a really big spoiler right now, but I'm gonna save that for later. Little do you know, these two little guys don't like each other, the new one and the one that's been raised by this kid forever, until suddenly they fall in love. So yeah, it is enemies to lovers if you love that. And basically the whole thing's about trying to overthrow this really bad chancellor, because our war hero Calix is only in charge of the military. He's actually not the primary leader. So darn, we gotta throw out the bad guy that's trying to kill all the refugees. That's basically the point of the book. So you've already read the book if you're watching this, and if you're watching this, you're on a super niche side of the world. Kudos to you for digging into really, like, niche, I'd say, dystopian novels, and slightly more recent ones. So let's actually get into it. Let's start with the world building, like I wanted to earlier. Really interesting world. I thought the politics, I'll say this with a grain of salt, I am a sucker for politics. I eat them up like candy. Not real politics, fake politics. I think they're super interesting. I love to hear about the world. I don't love romance, so we're gonna talk about it, but it's probably not be my main focus. I love to hear about taking down the government. That's why I really like this book in the end, because most of it is about the kind of political and the world side of it. Because you hear so much about the logistics of this magic that it's almost a little too much, and I have no idea what's going on. But I think Victoria Lee is a genius for explaining exponents in a magical way to me. I did appreciate that. Sounds sarcastic, but I really did. I just love that in this world the magic's not handed to them, and if they want to actually use it, they have to understand it. It is really cool. They don't wake up and just it's like, no, I have to understand how to So I really appreciated that, and I really liked it. That was a good part of the book, was the whole world. And throughout the chapters, there's like little pages that are like giving us interesting knowledge about the leaders and our war hero Calix guy. Like little tidbits, like making him kind of untrustworthy, but our main character doesn't know, but we get to know. I saw some complaints about that, but I kind of like not knowing. I mean, I kind of like knowing what the main character didn't know, because then I could be like, Gnome, you're so dumb. That's the main character's name, by the way, Gnome. He's technically Hebrew, so it could be pronounced Noam, but that's what the author said. But she calls it Gnome, I call it Gnome. Yep. Let's delve into some characters. The side characters in this book. What did they do? Nothing. They did nothing. They were definitely there. Did they move the plot along? No. Did they do much? No. But they were there for some of it. I can't like tell you what happened totally in this book. I read it in the span of like 3 days, and the side characters like just were non-existent. I didn't really know who they were. I don't know what any character looks like. Maybe I conked out. There are no descriptions of what the characters look like at all. I had to look to the webtoon. I think Gnome, from what everyone is saying, is he's supposed to be half white, half Latinx, or half Hebrew maybe? I know he's Jewish. I know he has some Latinx in him. I have no idea where that was said. All they say are they're Atlanteans, and maybe I'm really dumb, but in his fictional America. I don't know what Atlanteans and Carolinians are or what their ethnicity is. I'm pretty sure that his love interest Dara is African American. Pretty sure. I say that with a grain of salt. I don't really know. I don't know what her war hero guy looks like. There were no descriptions of what people look like, which was a little bit annoying, actually. But at least you got to make it up in your head. But if you want a confirmation, if you were right, you will never know. Unless I conked out, and that is somewhere in this book, but I did not find it. Yeah, the side characters do nothing. So I kind of talked about what I loved about the book. I love the politics. I love everything. Let's talk about my complaints with it. And I want to keep going on that side character track. These characters, not kidding, always drunk. Coked out, on drugs, drunk out of their minds. Every single night of the book. Every single night, it was one of them downing a bottle of whiskey. They're 16. I get it. They are like in the army. They probably have access to alcohol. That is normal. Can we talk about that they're all alcoholics and all addicted to very serious drugs? That is just not talked about. It's seen as really like funny in the book and not a big deal. To me, it was a big deal. How are you overthrowing a government and you've got some really big secrets in your head? And that's my cat. And you are playing such a risky game by being coked out. What was that? Please explain to me why that was such a big part of the book. They're always having sex and coked out. I'm not kidding. That one character, Dara, always having sex. Always. Oh, but that is a really serious part, so ignore that. Let's get into the romance was another big complaint of mine, because these two characters didn't even like really hate each other, I feel like. Like off the bat, they kind of stood up for each other. They had different views on their shared guy, Calix. They had conflicting views on him, but they never like cussed each other out. That didn't ever happen. They liked to spend time together. So it didn't feel super enemies to me. They had some fights, but so does everyone. And then suddenly, they have full-blown sex. They just go for it. It's in the middle of nowhere. It is not led up to. It's not, if you think it is. It's not really. Or maybe it kind of is, like it's a one-night stand, whatever. And then the next thing I know, one of them is confessing his undying love to the other. Lost in the sauce. Undying love. You don't know this person. You guys barely talk. I'm sorry. He's literally screaming in the rain. I love you, I love you. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. You're crazy, first of all. I don't know who's crazy in this book. Been lost in the sauce, as I said. Yeah, that was really weird. Okay. The love just made no sense. Even at the end of the book, when Dara, not the main character's love interest, flees like the country or whatnot. They're like, I love you, I'll love you forever. It's been like 6 months, guys. I'm sorry. People do not get engaged and fall in love this fast. That's not the way it works. Also, the only reason he's in love with you is because, kids, here's the plot twist, which I saw a lot of people said that they saw all the plot twists coming and that they were really interesting and everything. I mean, that they weren't interesting. I saw none of them. Maybe I'm a bird brain, but in that book, I didn't know what Calix's power was going to be. Our main war hero, he has the power to convince everyone of lies or whatever. So this is one of its positives, was that I thought the plot twists were really interesting and really great. The plot I thought was really fun, near the end especially. Yeah, I didn't know that Dara would be a telepath that could read people's brains either. I thought that was crazy. So, good job on the plot twist. Bad job on the romance. But I don't like romance, so it's okay. I thought they were gonna have a threesome at some point. The side characters were really weird. And they're all coked out. Either way, something else I did not realize while reading. Okay, I realized while reading, did not realize probably how bad it was until I was starting to read some Goodreads comments. What I initially thought was weird. let's start with this one. I didn't notice this until later, until someone pointed out to me, but both our war hero guy and our main character are Jewish, and that's something they share, coming from past families that have been through genocides, with real history, and they kind of relate to each other on that topic. But then they make the Jewish like leader guy kind of fit pretty bad Jewish like stereotypes of like greediness and being a really bad leader and stuff. So that could be seen as pretty bad. I absolutely do not think that Victoria Lee had any intention in doing that. I think that she only brought up the Jewish thing to give them kind of a point to be together, like that made sense that they were agreeing, like that linked them together, was their shared interest. I don't think being Jewish had to do anything with it. We're actually pretty far removed from World War II in this book, and there's already been a whole nother genocide that this guy had to live through. So I think that that wasn't a huge thing that stood out to me, but I'm also not Jewish and don't have to deal with those stereotypes every single day, so maybe that's also why. It's something worth noting though. Definitely not ripping on the author because of it. Slightly pissed off about this next one, or maybe a little more than that. A huge factor, trigger warning here, about SA, so sexual assault. A huge part of this book is about sexual assault. The main character's love interest is found out to be having sex with a 40-year-old man that he eventually kills, by the way. Wild. And they say it was consensual, but he was 15, so no, that's not okay. And you're like, okay, that's horrible, poor kid, screw that horrible man. And then later they released that the reason he like hates his dad figure, the war hero Calix, is because that guy also sexually abused him. And so while Victoria Lee advocates that her book has all queer characters, which I think is some really great representation, and it made me really excited to read it myself, to make your two adult gay, supposedly gay men into pedophiles and child predators, maybe not the smartest move. That is something that gay men often are stereotyped as, and it's legitimately a big problem in society. And I don't know, I really felt like this whole book could have existed without any of that. There were other reasons for Dara, the love interest, to hate those two men that did not need to have kind of just unnecessary suffering. And maybe for one of them it's okay, but for him to be failed in that way twice, and just by gay men, I don't know. I find it hard that you were advocating that you had queer characters and two of them were horrible child predators. Most of us obviously know that that does not apply to all gay men, but someone with the wrong ideas kind of just reinforces that for them. So I would love to hear where if the author thought about that once before she published this book. I'd be really curious to know. Maybe it's not that big a deal, but it kind of stood out to me as it just felt uncomfortable. And maybe that's the point, to make the audience uncomfortable. But it just kind of was like we weren't actually talking about how horrible this was. It was like almost interesting in a way when it was sexual assault and it was terrible. So I don't know how I feel. I'm kind of trying to ignore that part of the book because I really want to love this book, and I do love this book, but that is something that sticks out to me, and I would love to hear from the author. Not ripping on her. I'm sure those weren't her intentions. I'm just find it really interesting that it's been read so many times and it's been read by editors and no one thought maybe this is reinforcing the wrong ideas. But whatever. So that is a really important thing to talk about with this book. Probably the main reason I wanted to make this video, actually, because I'm kind of curious to hear other people's opinions regarding that in this book. I know they delve more into the second book, but I haven't got my hands on the second book yet because it is so hard to find the second book and not pay $25.99 for Apple, and I'm not paying that for this book. But I really want to read the second one because I do like this book. Overall, I thought it was really good. It's really hard to say it's really good after what I just talked about, But I thoroughly enjoyed it. For some, it's probably pretty boring. And until the very end, you know, it might be pretty boring. I read it while I was at school all day, and I was bored anyway, so I didn't really notice if it was exhaustingly boring. I loved the world. I liked the characters. I loved the plot twist, and I loved the fact that since our main guy that we kind of trust the whole way has the ability to get in people's heads and make them do whatever he wants them to do, every time our character would find out the truth, we kind of got set back once that guy wiped his memory and stuff. And so I also didn't know who to trust because our character was under the spell of this other guy, of, you know, the war hero, and we were seeing it through his even though it's in third person, we were still seeing it through his perspective, which was a really really cool. But you know, you just kept like, I didn't realize that what was happening too was that this whole kid's ideals were being slowly changed as the book progressed, inevitably leading him to kill someone that was really close to him. And it didn't even strike out to me as like, whoa, this character's like, it all made sense. So it really felt like I was being put under a spell too while I was reading it. That might be one of my favorite things about the whole book, because that was crazy, the way that they released that, and the way that I slowly saw like the gnome at the beginning of this book would never have killed someone unless he was under the influence of this guy's persuasion. So that was really cool. Kudos to Miss Lee for doing that one. That was pretty sick. So yeah, this is already really long. That's about all I had to say about The Fever King. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please, 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 please leave your thoughts for me, because, whoa, I got like a picture on my computer, and it's very much like a dystopian kind of picture, and I was like, you listening to me? Please, please, please leave your thoughts. I'd love to know what you thought about the book, what you thought about those specific things that I was talking about with the book. But with that, I will be signing off for today. I cannot wait to do another book talk. I really would love to discuss Beartown. It's a totally different, I did not read it for class, so I'm not lame like that. I'm just kidding. I got it from a teacher, actually. This is his copy. I should bring it back to him. I'd love to discuss this book if anyone's interested in that. But I also am in my dystopia kick, and I'm only reading dystopian books right now, and that's what I'll be obsessed with. I will probably come back with a book 2 on this, The Electric Air, once I get my hands on one. I'm reading some other dystopian books right now, kind of bouncing around. I started a really bad one today. I had to put it back because I couldn't do it. But I will discuss and see you guys later. So thanks for tuning in.